Can you hear me? Is that good? Excellent. Okay. We'll wait for a couple more people to come in and we'll begin everybody.
just mention something real quick
Here you go.
before we get started. We are recording these, so they'll be on the YouTube channel of the church, except this last session, unfortunately, when we had that little glitch with the sound, apparently it messed up the system, so it couldn't record. So pray that this session, the electronics works the way it's supposed to, and it can stay recorded. All right? Yes. Ask the presenters, and I'll let you talk with them if they want to give them to you. Richard? Okay. All right. We can work on we'll work with the B-Day and Richard here to have that. All right. Oh, excellent. Pass it on, brother.
All right, thank you. There we go. Just want to shut that off there. All right, everyone. Can you all hear me? All right, it's a pleasure to be here with you all again and to share on the topic of diabetes. Again, our topic is healing diabetes naturally. How many of us want to do that today? All right, well, by God's grace, I hope and pray that the information shared can help you on the pathway to doing that, okay? Little known fact. All right. Similar symptoms of diabetes received its first mention in 3000 BC, all right, by the Egyptians. The term diabetes was coined by Arturius Cappadocia in 81 to 133 AD. In 1675, the word mellitus, or honey sweet, was added by Thomas Willis because he discovered that urine was sweet. How he found that out, I know not. I'm not questioning that. All right. There we go. All right. Now, sharing that little known fact, we want to look at the prevalence of diabetes. How fast spreading is this disease or this lifestyle illness that we're dealing with today? All right, if we look here in North America, which where we are, as of 2019, there was 48 million cases of diabetes, right? There is a projected 33% increase. And in 2045, they're projecting that we'll have 63 million cases of diabetes. Also, to make mention, 43% of global diabetes-related health expenditures occurs in this region, being the United States, or the North America as a whole, and Caribbean. All right, so that's a concern. Now, but let's look at these other countries here. South America, 55% increase from 32 million in 2019 to 2045, 49 million. Some of the countries taking the biggest hits, Africa, you have from 2019, 19 million, it'll go up to 47 million, 143% increase. Looking here, Middle East, 96% increase, Southeast, 74. So we're seeing that there's an issue, it's rising. This is becoming something that we must address. So our goal here today is we just want to understand how the body breaks down food and understand how we can address diabetes in a natural way. All right? Let's continue on. So we know that when we eat food, right, food is converted into energy or glucose, correct? The glucose is absorbed into the body, into the bloodstream, and as our body seeks to take the glucose to its location, which is the cell, the pancreas will produce a hormone called insulin. This insulin acts as a key to open the door so that the glucose cells can enter in. So let's look at a diagram of that. Here's an example of, the glucose entering into the cell, or entering into the bloodstream, seeking its home in the cell. Now, if we look here, our food is broken down into glucose. As the body notices that there is more glucose being produced, as a reaction, it produces insulin by the pancreas, all right? And as it does that, they work hand in hand in an effort to get the glucose into the cell. It needs insulin, as we said, to act as a key to open that channel so that this glucose can enter into the cell and it can do its job accordingly. Is that making sense so far? So we break down our food, it becomes glucose. All right, glucose is needed for the cell to do its job properly. and it cannot enter the cell without insulin, which is produced by the pancreas. All right? Now, what happens with diabetics? All right, let's talk about this. We just spoke about how, one, our body breaks down food into glucose, all right? And as the body takes the glucose into the bloodstream, where is it trying to go? To the cell, right? And why does the cell need it? To perform its job, right? Or the task that it needs to perform. But in order for it to enter into the cell, what does the cell require? Insulin, all right? So that's making sense, okay? But with diabetics, the issue is people with diabetes eat energy foods. Their blood stays sweet for a long time, and they cannot use the energy in the blood, excuse me. The sugar cells, the sugar glucose cannot enter into the cell appropriately. Now we'll look at why that happens. Either the blood doesn't produce enough insulin, or it cannot use the insulin produced by the body to take the glucose into the cell. Now, there's two types of diabetes which we want to address today, all right? There's diabetes type 1, which is a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin, a hormone needed to allow sugar, glucose, to enter into the cell to produce energy, all right? So what is happening now with type 1 diabetes, and we'll just touch on this briefly, type 1 diabetics are, majority of them are 10% of the 10% of the persons who have diabetes type 1, all right? The immune system attacks the beta cells of the pancreas, which help to produce the insulin. As a result, the cells cannot use the energy appropriately, and thus, in fact, we have sugar remaining in the bloodstream as opposed to not entering into the cell, all right? With type 2 diabetes, the type in which beta cells in the pancreas produce insulin, as we stated, but the body is unable to use it effectively because the cells of the body are resistant to the action of the insulin, all right? Now, why is that happening? Again, we talked about this aspect of glucose needing insulin to enter into the cell. But God has created us in such a marvelous way. We're told that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We serve a God who believes in temperance, using that which you need and not the excess. So as your body takes in the glucose, the cell takes in the glucose and takes what it needs, all right, to perform the action. So if my cell doesn't need the more energy, what is going to happen with all that excess glucose? It's going to stay in it's going to stay in the bloodstream, correct? It will not enter into the cell because the cell has said, I am full. I don't need any more food. What does that remind you of? Temperance. Taking what you need, all right, and not taking in excess, all right? So as a result, now that the body cannot, the cell has used up all the glucose that it needs, now the glucose stays in the bloodstream and cannot be utilized because, one, your cell says, I don't need any more, so I'm going to be resistant to it. I don't want to overfill myself. I don't want to overindulge, if I can say, all right? Now, as we talked about, that results in excess blood glucose in the bloodstream. Now, what are the effects of that? What happens to the body as a result of having excess glucose? All right, let's look at the heart. The damage to the arteries contributes to arteriosclerosis, all right, which leads to an increased risk of angina, heart attack, stroke, congestive heart failure, and hypertension, ages 65 and above. Look at another fact, all right? Circulation is affected. Peripheral vascular disease, arteries and veins in the extremities become rigid and arteriosclerotic. All right, this causes poor blood return in the legs, in the feet, causing skin problems. All right, itchy skin, ulcers in the leg, feet that do not heal, gangrene, and amputations. And I've firsthand seen some of these things. Peripheral vascular disease, we've had guests at Uchee Pines who've had said issues. And when you try and do treatments on them, because there is a circulation issue, something as simple as a hot foot bath can be something torturous. Why? Because you're making a demand to a certain area of the body for more blood flow. And because there is an issue with circulation, the person cries out in pain because they can't take it. Because it's like, if I could say this, you're trying to push water through a needle or a hole in a needle, all right? But you can't get it through because the blood vessel or the vessel is tightened. So you're making a demand for more blood, but it doesn't have the capacity to take it. All right, is that clear so far? All right. Gangrene, another thing, or ulcers. I've seen ulcers where persons who've had gaping holes this big, and you can tap on the bone with a Q-tip. So these are just the severity of something like this that we're not giving attention to or not taking care of. All right. Now, what about the brain? Is our brain important? Do we need it? Okay. The person has a higher risk of having a stroke. Researchers found that the risk of stroke is 2 to 4 times higher among people with diabetes. So we're seeing this aspect of excess sugar is causing a problem. All right, retinopathy. How many people like to see? All right, impaired vision, which may progress to blindness. All right, and neuropathy. Nerve damage, which can cause impaired digestion, urination, impotence, problems with the extremities, numbness, tingling, burning sensation, sharp stabbing pains, and extreme tenderness in few cases in the extremities. Now, at first, you may not experience these things. Now, I can speak firsthand. My father deals with diabetes. And over the years, he didn't think it was a big issue. He thought, oh, I'll be fine. Look, I'll just take my insulin. I'll be okay. And I kind of coax him, hey, Dad, we should maybe take our lifestyle into consideration and try and take these necessary steps so that we can reverse this. And he says, no, I'll be fine. Well, I saw him 2 weeks ago, and I was like, hey, Dad, how's the diabetes going? Well, I really can't walk because I'm losing my balance. Well, what's the problem? I don't have feeling in my feet anymore. And I feel like, because of that, he fell twice in the last, 3-4 weeks. Now, my dad's 6'4". So, when you fall, when the taller you are, the harder the fall. So this is just something that we see as a result of, again, the excess sugar in the blood. All right, what are the warning signs? How can we know if we're developing type 2 diabetes? This is what we're speaking of more specifically now. Passing a lot of urine. All right, being very thirsty or hungry all the time. Worsening or blurred vision. Lack of feeling in the hands or feet. All right, slow healing of sores. That's something like that. All right, and getting infections very often. So these are all things. I'm giving you visuals so you can see. These are just real things that happen, not to be, ignored or not to be cast off the side here. All right, now how can we know if we have it more assuredly? Well, one can take a fasting plasma glucose or a fasting blood sugar, which is when you take your blood sugar, not eating anything in the last 12 hours, and you check your blood sugar in the morning to see what it would be. All right. Or one could take a hemoglobin A1C test, which is a blood test, and that measures your blood sugar in the last 2 to 3 months and gives you an average as to what it was. All right, 6.5, I believe, is right at the diabetes range. So if you don't want to be pre-diabetic or diabetic, you want to range for lower than that. All right, lower. All right. Now the question is often asked: is this genetic? Is diabetes genetic? What do you think? Okay, we have a yes, all right. All right. There was a study done on the Pima Indians. Now, this is a tribe that lives in Arizona in the United States, and they took similar Pima Indians in Mexico, in Sierra Madre, all right, and they noticed both their lifestyles to see, is this a genetic issue? Because they were prone to having diabetes, all right? They had a tendency, that doesn't mean they got it, they had a tendency to it, all right? So they noticed that the one difference between the Pima Indians in Arizona and the Pima Indians in Mexico, Sierra Madre, was that the Pima Indians in Arizona had a sedentary lifestyle and they followed the Western diet, which is high fat, all these different things, as opposed to their close relatives who were in Mexico, their lifestyle, they follow the traditional lifestyle of farming, yes, rice, bean, plenty of corn, and also being fairly active, doing the various things and not consuming large amounts of food as their close relatives, all right? So the question is again asked, is it genetic or is it lifestyle? What do we think? Lifestyle, right? Okay, so let's look at the causes, all right, which the Pima Indians again further clarified for us, all right? Overweight, all right, having a high-fat diet and the lack of exercise are some of the causes of diabetes, more specifically type 2 diabetes, okay? Oh yes, these are wonderful visuals, all right? Aren't they nice? All right, sedentary lifestyle, looks familiar? All right, now what's the treatment? How do we avoid or reverse diabetes type 2? Or how can we help, especially in things like diabetes type 1, all right? Exercise. Plenty of exercise, and we'll touch on these things as we go on. Lifestyle change, all right? Exercise improves blood sugar control in many cases by causing more blood sugar to be utilized by the cell and less insulin to be secreted. This helps to drop the blood sugar without medication, all right? Causes of the body to burn glycogen stores, which causes excess sugar in the blood to be restored in the liver and muscles, lowering blood sugar levels further, all right? So this is what exercise is doing, all right? It helps a person lose visceral and total body fat. Their loss of fat itself increases insulin sensitivity. Therefore, the person needs fewer medications. And it helps to increase skeletal muscular mass or muscle mass. All right? Helps with stress. We've talked about that multiple times today, which can disrupt diabetes control in some diabetics. It decreases the risk of heart disease, often associated with type 2 diabetes. And it has a favorable effect on various cardiovascular risk factors, for example, arterial pressure or high blood pressure, HDL, and triglycerides. So these are all things that exercise is helping with, along with the diabetes type 2. All right, Ken Goodrich, an MD and associate professor at Baylor College, stated that we know that if everybody exercised a few hours a week, how much? Few hours a week, type 2 diabetes would be virtually non-existent. It would be what? Okay, all right. The trick is motivating everyone to do it. All right, I love this one. Edward Shahade, an MD, states that our most powerful pills today for diabetics can improve insulin sensitivity to up to 25%, right? While for 18 to 24 hours after exercise, your body becomes 40% more sensitive to the insulin it produces, keeping your sugar levels efficiently in check. So what's more effective, exercise or the powerful diabetes medication? Exercise. Now, before I go there, let me say this. Now, what am I saying when I say exercise? Does that mean I'm asking you to say, okay, I got to exercise, I'm going to go run 2 miles? No, that's maybe too much. What I'm saying is start off small. Take a walk around the block, start off with that, and work your way up, build up. If you have a desire to work out in the gym or have equipment, start doing little things, touch-ups here and there, and build yourself up. And as you continually do this, your body makes more demand for energy. And as we stated, it needs more energy. There's more demand for more glucose to enter into the cell. And as more glucose enters into the cell, there's less glucose in the bloodstream, correct? All right. Let's look at this concept of less fat, all right? A little known fact, fat does not require insulin to enter into the cell. Instead, it passes through the cell membrane. Therefore, the cell gets filled with fat energy. When the glucose tries to enter into the cell the cell already has enough energy, and 1 gram of fat has double the energy of 1 gram of a carbohydrate and rejects the sugar and the insulin. So here's another issue in regards to diabetes. Fat, high fat consumption. So here it is that the glucose requires insulin to enter into a cell. But the fat can just come in. You can say like a robbery. He needs no key. He can just enter in and make himself at home. So now, when the sugar comes in, your cell says, oh, I'm full. I can't take this. So here it is, all this insulin and sugar is trying to get in, and the cell is saying, I'm full. I don't need it anymore. So thus, in point, it remains in the bloodstream. And then this is also why we find some diabetics have high insulin levels. Because here it is, the body's making a demand. There's glucose. We have to produce more insulin. In an effort, and then the cell is already filled because you had a high-fat diet. Now, there's insulin, there's glucose in the cell remaining, and they're all seeking for a home. And they're remaining in the bloodstream, causing all these problems like the retinopathy, like the peripheral vascular disease, all the things that we priorly mentioned. Everyone with me? All right. Now, here's a further study. This is a study done in 1927 to measure what is the real issue, what has more of an effect in regards to diabetes. Is it fat or sugar? All right, they took young, healthy male medical students, and they put them on a high sugar diet for, I believe it was a week or so, all right? And they measured their sugar, they measured their levels, and they saw that the highest that they saw in blood sugar measurements was about right around the 150 mark here, all right? And that was at the time that they were administering the time that they took the test, okay? Now they noticed that it was 2 days, 2 days of a carbohydrate diet, all right? Now they put them on 2 days of a high-fat diet, and you notice that the difference in the markers. The blood sugar skyrocketed up to 200s, highest being 286. So what's having more of an effect? We're seeing here 150 to 286. Fat, all right? It's proving the point. Let's continue on. If you're heavy, it's important to seek to achieve your ideal body weight. Obesity is one of the primary causative factors in causing insulin resistance. The LA Times stated that it is clear that if you lose weight, you can actually cure diabetes. He said, it has also been shown that if people exercise, their insulin functions more effectively in their bodies. So again, pointing back to the usefulness of exercise. And again, decreasing our body weight will help in managing diabetes. All right, here are some other methods. Fasting. Now, fasting can mean different things for different people. From a physiological perspective, we're referring to when energy comes from the storage instead of from the meal that is eaten. All right, typically it takes 8 to 12 hours after the last meal to reach the fasting state. The Starvation Treatment of Diabetes book, written in 1915, describes the only treatment for diabetes mellitus until insulin was discovered was fasting. So this was an effective method that was used. All right, feel free to take a read of that book. All right, what are the fasting benefits here? We're looking at weight loss, immune system improvement, you sleep better, your melatonin goes up, you feel better. All right, now what are the risks and disadvantages? Hypoglycemia, you might want to stop your hypoglycemic medication, and all this is to be done under medical supervision, all right? Just to be mindful so you're not bottoming out or anything like that in regards to your sugar levels. Press restart. A 3-day fast has been known to help. We often do this at Uchee Pines when our guests do come to start them off for the session. It largely reverses insulin resistance in the liver, allows glucose to return to the normal range, and for best results, should be followed by nightly fasting as well. So complete fasting, drinking water, all right, if one can do that. A good strategy for weight management also, evening meals should be light or none at all. That's if we're doing 2 meals. And if eaten, meals should be arranged to allow the stomach to empty before going to bed, all right? So this here is referring to more to if you're eating, we're suggesting that your evening meal should be light or none at all in regards to diabetes, having 2 meals a day. And they've seen that that helps significantly in managing your sugar levels. Here's a Farmington study. The risk of diabetes attributable to obesity is said to be as much as 75%. The study showed sustained weight loss over 2 consecutive 8-year periods led to 37% lowering risk of diabetes. However, those who regained the lost weight failed to experience any reduction in diabetes incidence, all right? So they're noticing that, again, you lose the weight, it helps to manage the diabetes better, and you keep the weight off, all right? Now, let's talk about some of the things that can help in managing lifestyle change, right? We mentioned lifestyle as being one thing that can help. So what kind of lifestyle should we have in order to help? A high fiber diet, which again, this is entitled the plant-based because this is the characteristics of a plant-based diet. High fiber, low in caloric density, above the ground vegetables are the lowest, leaves and stems, and they're nutrient dense. They have healthy fats, such as nuts, seeds, and oil, olives, etc. They're rich in antioxidants, and of course, they're colorful. We talked about the color, the rainbow diet, right? And they don't carry the risks that flesh foods do. All right. Vegetables and fruits decrease oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. Dr. Lee was just sharing about that, right? Vegans ate a third more fruits and vegetables than non-vegetarians. So wanting to go vegan includes foods with a low glycemic index, just to mention a few: beans, legumes, nuts, and it helps to prevent obesity. Now, let's look at some clinical trials in this regard. Does a low-fat vegan diet improve glycemic control and cardiovascular risk factors in individuals with diabetes mellitus type 2? All right, 99 individuals were randomized to a low-fat vegan diet or an American Diabetes Association diet, there we go, and evaluated at a baseline of 22 weeks. What did they find? Let's see, we're looking at a plant-based diet as opposed to a ADA diet. Decreased risk in medication, there was 43% in the plant-based diet as opposed to 26% in the ADA diet. Decreased A1C, 0.96 as opposed to 0.56. No medication changes. We're looking at, with the plant-based diet, 1.23 versus 0.30, all right? Weight loss. Persons lost 14 pounds on a plant-based diet as opposed to 6 on the ADA diet, all right? And they noticed that LDL decreased among those who, with no lipid-lowering medications, changed. So there was a 21% decrease in that, as opposed to a 10% decrease. Is anyone following me so far? All right, so we're seeing, so basically what this is showing, that the effectiveness of a vegan diet as opposed in comparison with an ADA diet. Which one looks more likely for you to try? All right, the plant-based diet, correct? All right, let's continue, all right? Reports that laboratory measurements show that eating more fruits and vegetables and fiber changes the blood sensitivity to insulin within how many? 2 weeks, helping to decrease the risk of diabetes almost immediately. Does God know what he's doing when he gives us a plan to follow? He gave it to us in Genesis for a reason, right? And we're seeing here, studies are just proving what God already told us. Let's see, what about breakfast? How important is breakfast? We're told that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. All right, the benefits, all right, it sets our metabolic rate in a good direction. There's improved mental function and mood, less stress. There's decreased hunger and total daily caloric intake. All right, the qualities of a good breakfast incorporate timing. When am I having it? All right, what also? Complex carbohydrates, whole grain foods, not refined foods. You want to avoid the refined, go for the whole. A meal high in fiber, and of course, adequate quantity of food. We don't want to have like a bagel and just run out. That's not going to fill you up or keep you satiated for the day, till lunchtime, right? We want to have an adequate breakfast with fruits, whole grains, hot cereals. All these things are important. There's a statement that's made: when you eat breakfast, you're telling your body that you're telling your body, that there are plenty of calories to be had for the day. But when you skip breakfast, the message your body gets is that it needs to conserve rather burn any incoming calories. So you see, when we skip breakfast, your body just, oh, I don't know when I'm gonna get my next meal, self-preservation. I have to hold on to my calories. So thus in point, weight loss becomes harder and all these other things. But if we're eating the breakfast, our body, you're sending again the message to your body, okay, you can use what you have because there's more coming. And what message do we want to send to our bodies? There's more food coming. Don't hold on. If I'm trying to lose weight, don't hold on to the calories, all right? Let's continue. Studies on fiber. Long-term cohort studies have indicated that whole grain consumption reduces the risk of diabetes type 2 and cardiovascular disease, one of the major complications. And substitution of whole grains, including brown rice for white rice, may lower your risk of diabetes type 2. Now, why is fiber so important? What is fiber doing for us, all right? Think of it this way. When we eat a diet that is refined, your blood sugar does what? It shoots up, all right? But the fiber acts as, you can say, a governor, all right? You have a diet high in fiber, your blood sugar decides to shoot up. Oh, there's fiber. Okay, let's let the insulin catch up, okay? It shoots up again. Oh, there's fiber. Okay, let's keep it down here. So it acts as a governor to keep it so that the pancreas can keep up, provide the insulin necessary so that we can maintain those blood sugar levels at an appropriate number. Okay? All right, there was a study done, 76 men with coronary artery disease without diabetes or with newly recognized diabetes mellitus type 2. And 70 grams of whole grain and legumes powder was added to their breakfast versus refined cereals. So 76 men were given a diet, one with 70 grams of whole grain and legume powder, and the other were given refined cereals to see the comparison between the two. All right? The two diets had the same caloric value, and they continued it for 4 months. Okay? The whole grain diet fasting glucose of these individuals, when measured, was the whole grain, was 85.2, or with 3 plus or minus. And with the refined diet, the fasting glucose was 112. So we're seeing the effects of, again, the benefits of fiber in controlling our blood sugar. What about sugar? Does that mean we throw away sugar because fat has more of an issue with diabetes? No, it still can be dangerous. It adds many extra calories, which contribute to obesity and energy overload. Again, if we're giving our body too much energy, what's going to happen? You get fat. Yes, this is true. But again, the cell, because it has sufficient food, it will not use that glucose in there. So it stays in the bloodstream. Again, so you're still facilitating the diabetes, all right? Especially high fructose corn syrup is especially dangerous for diabetics since it causes rapid and sharp rises in blood sugar levels, okay? It generally, as we stated, causes a rapid rise and a high peak in blood sugar levels, which stimulates the pancreas to excrete excess insulin, which may result in a corresponding rapid drop in the blood sugar in many cases, and cause low blood sugar, feeling of hunger, an all-gone feeling, shakiness, irritability, and the felt need of another sugary snack. So the cycle continues, all right? The symptoms are relieved by eating the sugary snack, as I said, and the vicious cycle repeats itself. So what is a way to get, what should you be having? That filling breakfast, filled with fiber, filled with fruits, whole grains, so that it would last you. So you don't have that all-gone feeling, correct? All right, some precautions, all right? Persons with diabetes should avoid eating excess quantities. What did I say? Excess quantities. I didn't say don't. Excess quantities of energy foods like potatoes, yams, rices, fruits that are high on the glycemic index, such as mangoes, pineapples. These are all things that have a high sugar content and can be too much for a diabetic at the time. But of course, our goal is to what? Reverse the diabetes type 2, right? So again, we want to build up that proper functioning pancreas so that your body can manage the sugars appropriately, all right? The blood can become sweet, and even if the food does not taste that sweet, all right? Instead, a person should take a serving of energy-rich foods to combine with it. Now, what does that look like? We're talking about, it may be vegetables, all right? We're talking about beans, nuts. These are all high-energy foods that are filled with fiber and can help with managing the sugar appropriately. What are some herbs, closing up here, that one can take? Bitter melon. Interestingly enough, my dad took a bitter melon tea. This was would have been 2 weeks ago when I visited him. His sugars were a little high, and my sister's mom said, okay, we're going to make him some bitter melon tea. She boils the bitter melon up for him. He drinks a spoonful. His sugar was about at 120. This was about at 6 o'clock. Took the bitter melon tea. By the time it was about, I believe it was 10 o'clock, his sugar was about at 85. So that's a significant drop, all right? So that's one thing. Fenugreek, these are often herbs that we use at Uchee Pines. Fenugreek, prickly pear cactus, Genema sylvestri, These are all things that help in managing the diabetes mellitus type 2. Again, that doesn't mean that we just take these herbs and we continue on with the lifestyle that we had before. This is in correlation with the lifestyle changes of high fiber, fruits, vegetables, nuts, all these things, okay? These are added things to help. Now, I know this may seem like, okay, well, you have to change a lot in the lifestyle, all right? But we can be encouraged, all right? Just before I say that, just to sum up everything, all right, be physically fit and active, fast every night during sleep, eat a healthy breakfast every day, eat whole plant foods, or eat a vegetarian or vegan diet or a plant-based diet, and all these things will help, okay? Now, as I stated, there's a promise that we can claim if this may seem overwhelming, if this may seem like a lot of information to take in. All right, I love this quote, and I believe it's so helpful. He is watching over you, trembling child of God. Are you tempted? Are you tempted to have that burger or the fries or the fried foods, whatever it is? He will help you, all right? Are you weak? Do you feel like, I just can't give this up, Lord? I don't know if I can do this, all right? He says he will strengthen. Are you ignorant? Do you need more help in understanding more about this, how to do it appropriately? How do I make the changes? How do I apply this to my life? Because maybe I'm just busy and I don't know how I can do this. All right, he will enlighten. Are you wounded? You feel that you're already too late and there's no way for you to turn back? He will heal. He will help. All right? So we can take courage in this, brothers and sisters. God has a plan for us. And he wants us to follow it, and he wants us to be in good health. He wants us to have restoration, because he is a God of restoration. All right? And I leave you with this promise here. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 20, it says, "For we were bought at a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's." We have been given this body by God as stewards. It's left to us to take care of it appropriately. We must, in all that we do, whatever choices we make, we must remember, how can I best glorify God with my lifestyle? And as you do this, and as we see persons with reversing their diabetes and things of that nature, we will be a testament to others and an encouragement to others and help them, all right? Now, one thing I do want to mention, with diabetes type 1, I failed to mention this. Persons may still be on insulin because juvenile diabetes is something that is diagnosed at a child's age or at a younger age. They may not stop taking the insulin, but the lifestyle changes themselves can help in better managing the diabetes type 1 and also preventing some of these signs that we saw, whether it be retinopathy, insulin resistance, and things like that. So they do have their place in helping. All right, so please be mindful of that. Okay? Well, brothers and sisters, I pray this was a blessing to you. I pray this was a help to you. All right, and what do we do now? Tomorrow we'll be having our presentations at 9 a.m., all right, in the annex, and we'll be starting with hydrotherapy, all right, learning what we can do with water and how we can restore the body that God has given us. Again, from 10 to 11, we'll be having natural remedies, how to use the things in your home to help with burns or things of that nature, all right? And then at 11 to 12, we'll be having consultations and chair massages. So feel free. Huh? And please park in the grass is what I'm being told, all right? And we'll have literature available now. Some of the literature we'll be touching on some of the topics that we talked about today, all right? So please feel free to come by, take a look. If you want to get a massage, please come on by. It'll be worth it. You'll be relaxed. 2 questions. All right, yes. Yes, questions. Oh, sorry. If there's any questions at all in regards to any of the presentations that were given, yes, Elder Castro. We'll try our best to answer them as best as we can. All right.
So we'll probably do a few minutes of questions if you have them. I'll have the first one here for Dr. Julie. Or any of you guys. You guys were talking about the importance of getting good sleep. And I think you mentioned that's a place to start. But I fictitiously, not me, okay? But I have problems with insomnia. I lay there and I just can't fall asleep. So what tips can you guys give us to help tonight when we go to bed?
First thing would be you need to exercise. You need to do something that's going to get you tired. Or you can take a warm bath. Don't take a hot bath because that'll keep you up. You want to take a warm bath before, you can take some chamomile tea. I think they keep saying that. This is what I always tell people to. Don't count sheep, but talk to the shepherd, right? But definitely, if you can get some exercise in earlier, like even if it's midday, exercise towards the end of the day may keep you up as well. So you want to do that more in the morning to midday. And the other thing to that is if you get that exercise in, that'll help weary you a bit. If you're still stressed or thinking about something, take a nice warm bath, drink some chamomile tea if you need something to really knock you out. I got something for that too, but and it's actually natural.
Oh, I got one right here. Some other things that can help are passion flower. That's another one. That worked personally for me. Years ago, I struggled with getting adequate sleep. And I noticed that passion flower worked within 30 minutes. Ashwagandha, that's another one, okay. There we go.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can put ice behind your neck. Oh, yeah, dark room. Don't get on your computers. Oh, yeah, let me just get this in there, da-da-da. If you do that too close to bedtime, what happens is that signal of the light goes into the brain, and it keeps your brain awake and alert, and that's why it's very hard to go to sleep at night. Another thing you might want to do is, the TVs, they should be moved out of the bedroom. Yeah, right? Yeah, that's probably one of the things that should be done, because that too will keep you up. And not only that, but if you keep it on while you fall asleep, guess what? You're going to have some nightmares sometimes because you're dreaming about whatever's on TV. Yeah, seriously, it really is true. I've had people that said, oh man, I can't believe what I dreamed. And then we looked up to see what was actually on that TV, and that's exactly what they dreamed, yes.
Okay, so I know I need to exercise, but the only time I can exercise is going to be after work. Because during lunchtime, the boss is there and needs me to, I only have a 30-minute lunchtime and I have to go back to the assembly line or whatnot. Should I just give up exercise, or evening exercise still okay?
Yes, evening exercise is still okay. You don't want to do very vigorous exercise, but you definitely want to do some exercise to kind of weary you up a bit so that way your muscles feel like they've gotten a workout. You don't have to do a whole lot. Even if it's a night walk or something like that, a casual walk, even that tends to be something to wind down your mind, to wind down your body as well.
Also, you can add a hot foot bath at night. That calms you down, helps to de-stress. 15, 20 minutes, hot foot bath. Magnesium also helps. Magnesium opens your blood vessels, so makes your mood, depresses your mood, I should say, by opening up your blood vessels. You can put magnesium in it, just lavender, just regular water. Epsom salt is magnesium. Ops, chamomile, valerian, different herbs you can use as well. Chamomile.
Yeah, so the explanation of why the ice behind the neck or the hot foot bath, why it works, you don't want to miss tomorrow. But this is the basic part of it. We talk about blood flow, right? So with blood flow, when you have a headache or if you have, like your mind is just, it's hard for you to sleep, when you put that ice there, it blocks the blood flow. It kind of helps it to kind of ease it a bit. When you put hot on your feet, the blood goes down to that area. So it's kind of like calming you down, kind of to help you to kind of not have all that. But I know for when people have headaches, that is like amazing when you do those kind of things, because when you have a headache, it goes boom, 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 right? And so that means the blood is trapped in the head. And so when you put cold there, it will help to, when you put hot on your hands or your feet, it takes that blood and it draws it out to that area to where your feet are because it wants to go where the heat is. And so with that, we're trying to help regulate the blood flow so then that way you're able to rest and you're more calm down.
Be careful though if you have hypertension, high blood pressure with using cold. You're probably better off using a hot foot bath. If you use cold, it can actually stimulate constrict your blood vessels, and that leads to higher blood pressure.
And as well as with the hot foot bath, if you're a diabetic and you can't really feel your feet very well, you probably don't want to do that one. But you can do warm. That's why I said take a warm bath. Put your chamomile, your lavender, and all that stuff inside your bath with maybe some Epsom salt. And you can soak in there for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and that will help you to feel relaxed. And don't just, like sometimes after you take your shower or your bath or whatever, you're rubbing real good. Just kind of, don't do too vigorous because that'll just wake you up. So just kind of pat dry a bit, make sure you're dry, and then go to bed. Otherwise, you're reacting everything again. But no, those are some really good things just to kind of calm down your mind and all of that as well. Other questions?
Last night you mentioned the 9:30, 10 o'clock window for the melatonin conversion and cortisol. If I missed the 9:30, 10 o'clock, have I missed out completely, or does that process continue through the night?
Yeah, so I mean, your cortisol starts to decrease at 9 p.m. and your melatonin starts to increase at 9 p.m. Melatonin peaks at like 3 a.m. in the morning. So basically, if you're not increasing at 9 p.m., if you're not sleeping in a dark room, you're not going to peak when it likes to peak. So you're going to have less melatonin than you should have at 3 a.m. because you're not sleeping at 9:30. And the same thing goes with the cortisol. Your cortisol is not going to be at its lowest point at 3 a.m. because you were up at 9:30 p.m.
Okay, my mom regularly wakes up with restless legs. She'll go to sleep, but it wakes her up. So what should she do with that?
Magnesium is very good for that. Orally. So magnesium citrate, you can even take magnesium sulfate, which is Epsom salt. You can take that orally as well. Take 1 teaspoon a day. If that doesn't work, you can take 2 teaspoons per day. The issue with magnesium, talking melatonin, but magnesium is that it can cause diarrhea. So you want to start off at a smaller dose and then increase if it doesn't work. But you can look up the studies, it's worked wonders for people with RLS or restless leg syndrome, with migraines and all the other things. Magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral in our body, and we're more so likely deficient than not. So taking magnesium can help with RLS, migraines, you name it, hypertension, heart problems, so forth and so on.
So is there a time frame that you should be taking that magnesium before bed? Like, should you take it, what's the best time to take it to get that effect?
Yeah,
and how much should you take?
At least 30 minutes before bedtime. You can take in the morning half a teaspoon. If you're taking 1 teaspoon a day, half a teaspoon in the morning, half a teaspoon at night. Or you can take the entire teaspoon before your bedtime as well. You can take Epsom salt. That's cheaper. You can get it at Walmart. But magnesium citrate is calm is the ones you can get. But they both work. Magnesium citrate, magnesium sulfate works. There's also magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is good for stomach ailments. So there's different types of magnesium. You want to watch out for basically use the citrate and the sulfate. Right.
And so is this magnesium sulfate, that is the Epsom salt? That's the magnesium that's in Epsom salt?
Yes, so magnesium sulfate is Epsom salt. You can use either that or the magnesium citrate, which is sold on the GNC or health food stores.
Yeah, and so like the magnesium citrate, so 400 milligrams twice a day, once a day? Do you have a dose?
1 teaspoon a day, you can do half a teaspoon in the morning, half.
Okay, the same for the sulfate then, the same.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay, thanks.
One more question.
Ask a question, please. Anyone?
Oh, okay.
If diabetes is not genetic, how come people don't get it? And some people who have a long lineage of diabetes in their family do get it.
One more time.
How come some people don't get diabetes ever, and none of their family does, but some people have long lineages of diabetics in their family, or diabetes in their family?
Well, based off of, again, showing the PIMA study, it's more of a lifestyle that they're living that tells the difference. You may be prone to something, but your lifestyle can determine whether you would get it or not, if that answers the question. Yeah, so you may, Yeah, so, but because, yeah, he has he may be prone to it, but his lifestyle determines and helps to either avoid it or, again, if I could say, welcome it in or open opportunity for you to get. I mean, yeah, you know, but that's kind of what it is. Our lifestyle, they're noticing the lifestyle that we live is, again, the determining factor as to whether the person will continue on the cycle or break the cycle. Yeah.
There's a big research on epigenetics, and you can turn genes off or turn genes on, and that's based on your lifestyle. So if you're eating an American standard diet, you can turn genes on to promote a diabetic, diabetic diseases and heart diseases and lung cancer and all these other things. So you can actually turn genes on or turn them off based on your lifestyle. And also with diabetes type 1, there are actually studies with Gymnema sylvestri, which says that Gymnema actually helps to recreate beta cells. So even with diabetes type 1, Gymnema sylvestri can help with diabetic type 1s.
And there's so much more that we could talk on. So thank you for coming. Again, a reminder, as I said last Sabbath, I would not mind being out of business and not having any patience. So come tomorrow morning for home remedies and simple things that you can do to help yourself so that you don't have to bug me. Rather selfish. No, not right. Now let's stand and we'll have a final word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for making us fearfully and wonderfully made. Thank you for your original plan, and forgive us for making up our own plan. Open our eyes, and as we have studied throughout this last quarter in Sabbath school lesson, give us a new heart and a new spirit to follow your will, to follow your plan, to follow your ways. Bless us in the rest of the Sabbath day. Bring us back safely tomorrow to learn some more. And again, we praise you and thank you for the folks of Uchee Pines that have come. Bless them, bless their ministry, bless their organization, and be with us as we depart from here. In Jesus' name, amen.